obviously.
You know, obviously.
That's right.
I got Dave here.
I think that
You know, we want to welcome everybody here.
Speaking of that,
Celinda. You know, we want to welcome everybody here.
Everything all at once?
Everything all at once.
It's honestly a sensation.
Aliens listen to it.
So I agree with you. I don't think it's like a doomsday thing, but I think it's that if we don't get our head out of our ass and start making conscious decisions on how we want to interact with her, it's probably not going to be that great. It's like saying that you want change and doing something that's hurting you, but then you don't make the change. Well, you're going to get the same outcome. You know, like if I go get hammered every Friday and feel like shit on Saturday and want that change, but I don't change that initial behavior, and I think it's the discomfort of that change, you know, that is hindering us.
I think it might also be like defeatedness. People are very morose because they feel like, you know, it's not that people don't put up a fight, it's just that trying to live your own life and survive as an individual.
Absolutely. And what am I going to do about it? You know, what the hell can I do about it?
Right, because people, you know, I've known plenty of people who might want to do something to better the earth or the community or things around them, but it's so difficult because you get so much pushback that it just jades people. They just ended up jaded, and then they're like, well, there's no point because people suck. And this is just how it's going to be.
I agree with you in the way that I've been viewing it, like with the power set, is that we're in the biggest narcissistic relationship there is with the structure. You know what I mean? We get told one thing, like, okay, take recycling, for example, right? They tell you that you should recycle. They say that we should recycle, but the truth of the matter is that the top 3 major polluters in the whole entirety of the world, they know where they are, and you can recycle till you're fucking dead, and it's not going to do anything. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? This is coming from I was all about recycling. You know what I mean? But what I'm saying is, within that narcissistic relationship, is that they're putting the blame on the individuals when really there's a system set that is hugely polluting, and that your individual household doesn't make one bit of difference.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
And the entirety of it, you know, it's in our relationship. It's like looking at a pear tree and wanting it to have apples. It doesn't matter how many times you do it or how long you do it. That fucking pear tree's not going to have apples.
Right.
And making that initial change or whatever is always the hardest part, I think, especially when you see a cause and effect relationship. You know what I mean? Yeah. Going back to drinking every Friday and then feeling like shit the next day.
Yeah.
And so I feel like so many people are focused on the now and are not thinking long term towards any of their life. You know, I started realizing hey, I don't really like drinking pop so much because I don't like how it makes my mouth feel afterwards. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now, I've probably known this for a long time, but to actually make a change or decide that I'm not going to drink as much pop anymore because it makes my mouth feel bad afterwards is an entirely different thing, because in the moment I'm just I want to pop because it's tasty and delicious and it's what I like to drink.
Even chemically, that feedback in your brain, you're used to that feedback. It's this makes me feel good right now in the moment, you know?
And then you go to the dentist every 6 months and they're like, you got all these holes in your teeth.
Yeah,
why?
what's going on?
Why? Do you drink pop? Yeah, well, stop drinking as much, but it makes me feel good, you know? I like the way it tastes. Well, you're going to lose your teeth.
Right, yeah, right.
It's good to have you here, Josh.
Hi, thank you.
Welcome to the show.
I'm excited to be here.
Everything at once. We got Dave and Josh here, obviously, and Josh is somebody that I admire because he's made a big change in his life and has always been a person that I've seen as taking that next step forward to make those positive changes for his own personal well-being, and has kind of followed through with that old dream that I personally have had, and know that a number of other people have had, to kind of withdraw a little bit from mainstream society and get some land out in the middle of nowhere and return back to a different lifestyle that people used to embrace a lot more in the past.
Yeah.
And I really want to hear what led up to you deciding to make this change, because I'm sure it's been a thought that you've had in your head since.
Oh yeah.
Like I thought of it since like being a teenager. You know what I mean?
Me too. Me too.
Like,
And-
God damn, I wish I could just leave all this stuff behind and
Right.
go out and take
Yeah.
care of myself and live off the land and stuff.
I've been talking about living this way since 18 or 19, and I think I'm gonna be 45 years old this year. And just taking that leap, there's always a reason not to. And like, so you just were asking the lead in to that. I had just got done remodeling a 4-story house down on Liberty Street, and the plan was that that's where I was going to live. Myself, my daughter, and my son. And I was getting done, and actually my father was up helping me, and was like asking
Gideon.
if this was what I really wanted, you know. And the only reason I was in Erie is because my daughter was going to collegiate. Like, I'm not a city person to begin with, and here I was looking at like recommitting to a mortgage, to being in Erie for
A long time.
Yeah, a good long time. And I'm like, no, I don't want. And actually, that's so funny, because the thing that was whispering in my ear during that time was the water's rising, and it was like talking to me like culturally, like, you know, like things are gonna be shifting, the water's rising right now. And I decided that I wasn't gonna do it, you know. And my kids were pissed off at me, everybody was pissed off at me.
Yeah.
You know. But once the decision was made, it just flowed. I had friends that were out in the country that I had been going and doing work for like at least the last 4 or 5 years. And it just happened to be that there, in that area, there was a place for sale. And it was 8 acres. The man was willing to do it on contract. The money came together in the right way, and I took Kai, my son, and we moved out into a school bus that one of my friends owned. And like, so March, 3 years ago this March, that's where we were.
That's interesting. That's a huge change from Liberty
Oh yeah.
to staying in a school bus. How did you like living in like a tiny home for a little bit?
I did not like it. And it's funny because every step of the way, I mean, it started out living in the school bus, then it started out living in structures that, I mean, on the property that I got, it's like a broken down old farmhouse, and I actually ended up turning the garage into a cabin, and it's still being finished right now, but it, like, every step of the way was like the next step. Meaning, like, at first, okay, we got the electricity on. All right, the water system's running, you know, all the way to like functioning plumbing, you know, like
And you're a craftsman too, so you did most of this work yourself.
yeah, and that was a huge blessing too, because the crazy shit that we did, had I not had that skill set, we wouldn't have been able to do
It's
it.
so valuable.
You know.
So valuable to be able to do construction work and plumbing and all of those things. It's something that I wish I could do more of, or was more inclined towards doing currently.
Yeah. Well, and I'm seeing you do more of it. We just were out
Yeah, right.
looking at your treehouse.
Well, I didn't. I paid people to build that. But I'm a roofer now. You're right. I put the roof on my garage with the help of some friends, and I guess that's where it starts too. You know, everything kind of, like you said, comes in phases and in waves. And as people progress as human beings, we learn more and more and pick up these skills.
Oh yeah, and share skills with each other, right? I mean, like, so there's a lot of things that I'm not good at, and that just happens to be one of the things that I can do. Like when you were telling me about what you've learned about the technology to be able to do what we're doing right here, nope. You know, I don't have that. But But yes, so like it's like was like 100-year-old farmhouse. The foundation was falling in the back. There
It was in rough
like,
shape when I saw it.
Oh
at
my
first.
gosh, it was a field, man.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, and that's so funny because before you started broadcasting this, we were talking about taking the risk to create change and how it can be uncomfortable at times. And so when we did move out, and everyone that I've seen move out to the area, there's like a breakdown of stepping out, you know, like, and we're pretty deep in the country. I'm like probably 10 minutes from town, but like when I go to town, it feels like I'm coming in off the mountain. You know,
Right.
it is fairly isolated. There's
not a lot going on out.
No, and there's twice as many people in the neighborhood right now as there was, but it still feels like we're way out there. But like, so I don't want to say discomfort, but that breakdown that happens when you step away from all this, when you're not in traffic, when you're like, when we first started, I didn't even have internet. My phone wouldn't even pick up. And I remember like 3 or 4 months after being there, the first time that Netflix worked, I sat down right where I was, you know,
Right.
and watched until I ran out of signal, you know. But that breakdown of that constant feedback, that slow down the reconnection with the earth, you know, that
Moving
quiet
back to
space.
a slower pace than the fast-paced lives that a lot of us live out here.
Right.
Is it like a withdrawal? Like when?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Like when Tony had sent me some messages about like just throwing ideas out there about what we would talk about, and part of it was like the way that culture is right now with the kids, and like that instant feedback cycle is what popped up when I read that question that you had wrote, or that idea. And yeah, because right, we get instant feedback all the time now.
Right, especially
know?
with Facebook and social media and all
my
the things
gosh.
that need to be done right away, like chop chop, you know,
Right.
especially at like work or any sort of environment that really thrives on a deadline.
Right.
Well, maybe not thrives on a deadline, but lives on a deadline.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
even like the hustle and bustle of the city. Now, granted, Erie isn't this isn't New York, you know, it's not LA, but it's still, you know, a decent size, and just even going away from the hustle and bustle, just to be out in the country, out in the sticks, like,
Right.
you know, I've always been a city slicker type, you know.
Yeah,
like,
same for the most part. Spent most of my life in the city for sure.
And I'd say, like, I don't know, like, kind of feel like a walking contradiction sometimes, because I have some very wavy gravy 60s, you know, hippie mentality. But then on the other side, like, I just love being around people, and I love having like immediate access to like a whole bunch of different things to occupy my time, because I don't like working with my hands.
Yeah.
You know, I'd rather pay someone to do
Yeah,
it. It's the
well,
truth.
that's cool too, because that keeps me employed, man.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
yeah.
It's a circle. You know, it's the delicate ecology of human life.
Oh, and that exactly, and I think that's the beautiful thing of having a circle of people, or of having community, is that people get to bring what they do bring, you know, and we can benefit each other in that way.
Right. And withdrawing from the convenience, I think, has a lot of value to, at least me personally, I find more satisfaction when I go the less traveled road, so to speak, or the path that's a little got more brush in it, you know, that I have to work my way through, rather than the instant gratification of ordering something from Grubhub or Amazon or whatever that's going to just magically appear at my door somehow
Right.
in the next couple days.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Right.
And do you think that what you looked at as inconveniences are now, you know, are they less of an inconvenience, or are they more of just like a part of life now, or are they?
It wasn't necessarily like an inconvenience. It was more like a withdrawal.
Yeah.
You know, and as it goes, actually, I've gotten more and more spoiled, because now it's like up and running pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so now, I mean, there's different tasks that we have to do. We've spent like the last couple weeks getting wood ready for winter. We have animals that we're tending to now. And it's funny because you had mentioned that it is everything at once and it's nothing at once too. You know, it's a when you have big goals or a bigger vision, that things take time.
Exactly.
You know? You start having like 1-year plans, 2-year plans, 3-year plans. But what I can say is that if I would have like wrote down the things that I wanted to happen in the initial moving out there, I would have sold myself short because I didn't know all the beautiful things that were going to happen, you know, by being connected with a neighborhood of friends and beautiful people, by touching the land again, by having interactions with animals every day. We're raising rabbits, we're about to get some hogs, and like that, just the nature of that creates the routine, you know, creates a really beautiful thing. And it is that slow down, you know.
And changing that routine is a difficult task. But once things do become routine, I was talking to somebody the other day about actually going to the gym and how I was focused on, you know, determination. You know, that was like my motivation point. Like, I'm determined to do this. I'm going to do this. Yeah. And he's like, you know, determination's only going to last you so long, Tony. We don't have a bottomless supply of motivation and determination. Right. And that's where routine comes in.
Right.
And it's not a task anymore. It's just what we do.
Right. Discipline, right?
Yeah.
That might be another word for it, and I've heard the same thing before, like that motivation comes and goes, but it's the discipline is doing it when we don't really want to be doing it. You know, like
exactly.
It's a very I know Tony's familiar with this individual. I'm not sure if you are, but it's very David Goggins-esque way of looking at things. He's are you familiar with him?
No, I'm not.
So he's just like this badass motherfucking like
former Navy SEAL, ultra marathon runner.
Oh, I know the guy you're talking about.
He does all sorts of inspirational
so he's
stuff.
Like get hard, you know, stay hard, whatever. And
did he do like the world's most pull-ups or something like that?
Yeah, he did. He did.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
He did.
Yeah.
And it's kind. I like that idea because it's one thing to have a goal.
Yeah.
And it's another thing to follow through with it. And like following through with it is something that not a lot of people do because it's highly uncomfortable.
Yes.
Like it gets to the point where you get bored, or that's how we were talking right when we got down here about how people want to make a change in the world or even make a change in their own life, but there's so many contributing factors that can wear you down. That it just stops the vast majority of people of doing what they want to do.
Right.
And how do you? Well, I mean, you enjoy being out there.
I do enjoy being out there. Yeah.
Is there any like any like difficulties? Like
missing closer to culture?
Yeah, exactly. Being closer to culture.
No.
Well, that's good. Well, that's a slam dunk.
Awesome. No, it was pretty easy for me. And I grew up in the country. My people were like fruit farmers. You know what I mean? I've been picking up apples since I was like 6 or 7 years old. It wasn't a big change. It was more like just waiting to get back to that.
And I've asked a lot of people that same question too, Dave, that live out in the same area as Josh, and none of them have any regrets or missing society. And I feel like personally, because I love going out to events, you know what I mean? Going to see plays and concerts and doing different things around here, and I feel like I would miss that a lot. But everybody that I've asked that's moved out near where you are is all unanimously no. I do not miss being in the city of Erie or this whatever city or area they came from. But I guess that like when you leave something, the door doesn't slam shut. It just changes, or it opens a new door to find different ways to find that same satisfaction or that same joy that I experience going out and engaging in different things that the city has to offer me.
Right.
Compared to finding the stuff that I would enjoy living out with you guys in that community.
I feel like, you know, when I hear about these kind of adventures, not adventures, just
It's definitely an adventure.
It's an adventure. I'm thinking like almost like an Iliad. No, not like Iliad. You know,
It's
'cause
more
Homer-
like Northern Exposure,
It's
man.
more.
Have you ever watched Northern Exposure?
It is more like Northern Exposure. You're exactly right. I was trying to think of a good analogy.
Well,
and, like,
it's funny like that too, because it's like we have, like, my partner and I, Dale, we have like an ongoing joke that every time a new character comes in, you know what I mean? Like Sky comes down and like Merle's drills wells, and he'll do it for $2,500, and he's down there doing it right now. You know, it's like the new characters get introduced.
The story's always changing.
The story's always changing, and so like what Tony and I were talking about, like people before we came down, people getting well by that, we need connection, right? And so like I'm not saying that this city doesn't have connection, because that's individual. That doesn't mean anything. You could have a really good circle of people and still have a deep connection, but like the slowdown. First of all, it almost feels like vibrationally, like when I come to the city now, if like, okay, today was very chill, it was in the evening time, I came directly to your house, but if I'm out and about in Erie for the day, like just the vibration of town, and that might be like the breakdown that we were talking about. When you initially come out, like if you go sit in the woods for 4 days, you're going to feel the break
Way
apart
different, yeah.
of that, you know. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you talked about like the when you were here.
Yeah.
Before you moved out, when you were down on Liberty, like the idea of, or that feeling of like the water rising.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of like a very, very like Hunter S. Thompson-esque when he wrote like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. At the end of it, he talks about like the waves of the 60s rising and then crashing and the tide rolling back in as like the 70s came to be and the status quo started to take back over. And I wonder, you said that there's like a doubling probably of people in your area right now. Do you think we're in like a current point in time like it was back then, where with like the clash of issues going on in cities and big places, you just have more and more people that want to move, like just kind of go and do their own thing? Do you think that's something that's going on right now?
Oh yeah, I think it's always been going on, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Like even so, like we were talking to our neighbors the other day about hogs. We're thinking about getting hogs. They have some. I'm like, hey, can I come over and see you, find out what information you have? But the point that I'm sharing is that he told me that, oh yeah, we used to homeschool the kids. You know, or like, so here's this man that's probably like at least 15 years my senior, and they were doing the same thing. You know what I mean? I think it's always been going on, and I think there's always been big contrast. And right now, yeah, we're at an apex again of like the need to keep us bickering about controversial issues.
Yeah.
It's like even with the idea of coming here and talking about community, like part of the things that I have learned over the last going on 3 years is that when we learn to have a deep respect for each other and we focus on the things that we do have in common, it's really easy to be in a good way with each other. Like I don't need to believe what you believe,
Right.
to acknowledge that like we all have an interest in clean water, we all have an interest in clean food, we all have an interest in a safe place for our children to be, we all have an interest in being in a place that is safe from violent activity.
Right.
You know what I mean? Those will cross all religious denominations, political affiliations, your sexuality, all those things people have an interest in.
Yeah.
Now, if we could stay focused on that, it would be easy. But instead, we're focused on so much bullshit. You know what I mean?
What do you think comes after the bullshit? Me and Dave kind of talked about this a little bit on our own, about how right now, like, the big cultural thing is, like, identity politics. Well, not really like identity like just identity in general and finding your own ground. And I feel like that's part of this is kind of part of your story or your experience is like moving away from that identity and becoming a we and becoming a part of a community, a tight-knit community.
Culturally, if I understand what you're talking about, culturally what comes after the bullshit is they say, well, who's going to pay for that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you come with this really good idea, and hey, that's a great idea. Well, who the hell's going to pay for that? So it's like when Control Set was made, they gave a clock and then they gave money. You know what I mean? Because then, and don't get me wrong, both things can be used in a good way, but when we're operating from rugged individualism, it's hard to see it. When my concerns are greater and grander than everyone else's, then it's a hard way to be. Like my buddy that lives next door is all into growing, loves growing, receives knowledge from being out there by being with the plants, by seeing the plants, and comes back and shares. And it's beautiful to hear his stories. But like, so he's on a new venture right now where he's done it before, but he's starting to grow a bunch of mushrooms. And every time he tells me what he's doing, it's like, his baseline is like, well, first I'm going to give everybody a bunch of mushrooms. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then we're going to go out there and sell some. You know what I mean? So like, it's that idea of looking out for each other and fully acknowledging that, like, when the health within my community, when there's a safe place for everyone's needs to be met, what's good for you will be good for me. Like, and the crazy part is if he tells you about the trees, it's the same damn thing. You know, like they'll send, if there's a tree within a grove getting sick, they'll send it energy. And not only out of like this kindness, but because what's good for one of them is good for all. And
Right.
like, everybody can do and be and think what they want to think. If we operated on a baseline of that care, oh my gosh, man, what a
The
different
feast
world.
or famine mentality
famine,
is
yeah.
something that's like been very ingrained. Like if I'm doing well,
Yeah.
I need to be competitive with other people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I need to beat my competition to get to a point where I succeed and I am comfortable.
Right.
Before, and instead of like seeing that this group together can flourish as one,
Right.
and all prosper, instead of trying to be the sole or the monopolizing factor in any given situation.
Well, and I mean, I don't want to swing too far to way out there, but like, we are, as men, we are in arrested development. You know, we've been conditioned to believe shit like that. But if we like go way back, like to what a warrior was of service. It wasn't me physically overtaking other people. Very, very, very rarely. It was me like making sure that the aunties and uncles and the grandmas and grandpas and the children had what they needed, and my partner, you know, and being of service, you know, and we've lost that. We've even done the opposite of that. We've said that that's weak. And that there's nothing farther from the truth.
Well, I tend to wonder and think how big of a group how big of a collective you can have in one spot while still maintaining a sense of utopia or utopic thoughts.
And I hear you, but it's not utopia. That's the funny thing is that we have this like rainbows or unicorn shitting rainbows idea, and it's the exact fucking opposite of that too. It's like doing the hard work, because quite frankly, when the slowdown happens, you have a greater opportunity to see your own shadow, and the only way that it all really works is if people are committed to continually doing their own internal discipline to handle their own shit.
I just wonder if, like, just out of curiosity, just from things I've seen, you know, I'm a pretty big history buff or whatever, and I'm an optimist. That's how we started off this conversation. So I always want to try to find a way where things work out, where we break certain cycles, you know, that create the history we have as humans. And it just seems like the more that the more people grasp on to a pure idea, the more it becomes disingenuous. Not so much the I'm trying to think of, like, you know, like, let's say, like, the rainbow people.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's a great concept, how they started, but then you get certain points where it's like, you know, when it's a very popular thing to do, you get a large group of people there that kind of going back to the Goggins thing, where it's like, oh, this is a great idea, I'm going to do it. But then when times get tough, a lot of people aren't going to look inward. They're going to cut throats to get what they need. So, like, where do you strike that balance between, like, how big can you can you go? Like, do we need to be like a series of like small communities instead of networking into these giant globs of like the city life?
That's funny. Those are all like really good talking pieces, because like really, even I don't even know what the idea of a utopia is. So like if we were to define that first, it would be having access to the things that we just talked about, I think, you know, and then everybody's going to do with it what they do with that. But right now in this time, it's like we're at least 2 generations out of grief healing before we could even start to talk about that, you know, and doing that own internal work of getting your own bullshit out of the way, you know, is I think where we're at right now.
Do you think people have the capability when it's presented to them? Because I feel like it's not always black and white, but I feel like 2 very common things would be you do the internal work and it's delayed gratification, and you might be feeling like, you know, discomfort in the moment, or you can cut another person's throat over and over again for like a sense of like getting what you want now, accomplishment, instant gratification, moving up the ladder. Well, that's how the power structure works. How, like, right now, you know, whatever foot you can get in, you go to the top so you can have what the have-nots don't have. And you know, what needs to be done is like on like a spiritual, a cultural level, to realign people to the idea that it's okay to wait for things. Like, how do we get there?
I think there needs to be like a sink or swim aspect, you know what I mean? Like you come out and the pain becomes great enough that you have to make a change. And I think that may apply a little bit out there too, you know, like you talked about the slowing down process. And I'm sure a lot of people have come out to where you guys are at and probably turned back.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Because they couldn't, you know, they weren't cut out for it at that time.
It was too much. It was too much to handle at that point, right? Or too much to handle at that moment in their existence. But yeah, you hit it right on the head of that growth. Like even when we were talking about growth earlier, and it might seem like a dichotomy, but pain is usually that biggest instigator of growth, you know,
Right.
and then getting very, very honest with ourselves, you know, like one of the healthiest things that happened for me in the last couple of years is figuring out what's my shit and what's not my shit. Like if it's my shit, then that's my opportunity and responsibility to sit with that, right? If it's yours, I can love you, but I can't do nothing with it. You know what I mean? I can be here in a supportive stance, but getting really clear on that makes it much easier, because then I get to go sit with what I can sit with, and other than that, I don't take it personally. You know what I mean? So if there's fucked up shit happening over there and it's not mine, then it's not mine. It's can I help you? And okay, if I can, am I willing to? Okay, I'm willing to do this part of it. And if it's not, then it's giving time and space and just acknowledging that everybody has their own internal reflections to deal with, you know.
I think that's something that I struggle with personally is like I see somebody do something to somebody else that doesn't really particularly affect me.
Yeah.
But now I have these judgments, and maybe I should have those judgments, or I should have those concerns about this person that I saw that wronged my friend, but how do I approach this situation without you know, bringing those into it? Or do I excommunicate this person and say, you know, you hurt my friend and I don't want you to hurt me, and now you have to stay and play on your side of the fence, you know? I don't want you coming over onto my stuff.
It's a really rough one, man. It's a big deal, and it's a rough one.
Establishing those boundaries, you know?
Right. What's healthy? Who are you going to invest in? What is your personal boundary? You know, and it's usually, for me, it's usually harm. You know, and then if the cycles are repeated, you know, so if this is a reoccurring thing, then there has to be a healthy boundary drawn of what is allowed. You know, and if we go back to talking about what a warrior looks like compared to a man culturally that I believe that we've been in Arrested Development, it would be of what is creating a safe space for our people. Like that's like that's a baseline, you know?
Right.
Oh, and so like in there, I know there's other people that could talk to you better about this, but having principle-based philosophy, so like you can run it through a set of principles that you're working with and get an answer to anything. You know, so every situation is its own, but if you have that baseline, that foundation to go through, then that can be your barometer, that can be your compass.
And sticking to those moral fortitudes and those principles that you're trying to aspire to be and want to surround yourself with, helps put that barometer in the air of what is acceptable and what I will take on and what I won't take on.
God, it's so difficult. Like, the more I'm thinking about it, I like start off like I'm a city slicker. I don't want to ever do anything, besides like, hang out in the city and enjoy people. But the more we're talking, I'm like, that barometer, every additional person that gets added into your collective like existence, does more to throw that barometer out of whack. Potentially, right? I feel like it's easy to, not easy, I won't say it like that, because it could be a lot more difficult if you have like I'd imagine if you have a small community where everyone's close, if somebody does something that's like not okay or like collectively frowned upon, then it's someone that you love, so it's difficult to handle it in that way. But when you got like a bigger scale thing like here, like we got good ideas that I think initially, the concept of how laws are put into place was a good idea to prop up society. Now it's kind of bastardized, so like my philosophy might not line up with your philosophy, and what I feel is moral and just might not line up with what you think is moral and just.
Right.
And it just makes it difficult for us all to vibe on that same level.
Right. You're talking about like we come viewing this culture from a very arrogant standpoint, like that we're at the apex of culture, right? We're so much smarter than all the generations prior to this. It was Maslow, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
Okay, so if this is true, which I believe it is, Maslow stole that information, the idea of it, from the Blackfeet Indians.
Oh, yeah.
And what he had as his pinnacle of self-actualization was the baseline for theirs. Oh. It wasn't the top. This is where you started from, right? Because when you came up, you had models of it. You had aunties and uncles, and you had people that were investing in you. So this self-actualization, this was a given to them. You know what I mean? These individual...
there was a lot more attachment, too, to those people, compared to now where I'm very detached from... my neighbors,
because there was a cause and effect.
There.
Because if someone was fucking their shit up right over there, it was going to affect you.
One way or the other, for sure.
Right. So there was a reason, and we did see cause and effect. And that's funny because that's one of the things that we're like talking about, the slowdown in this. This is, to a degree, an artificial reality built on so much labor. Like all the things that you enjoy here, or that we enjoy when we're in this culture in general, but definitely in the city, is so much encompassed labor and energy that makes this happen. You know what I mean? So like when like the prep work that we did out there, if we wouldn't have prepped that wood and filled it, we would be cold this winter. You know what I mean? Like we get to, there's a handful of things living out there, living closer to the earth, that you get to see the direct cause and effect from, which we don't, not that much here. Like if you don't pay your electric bill, it'll get shut off after a couple months.
But whether you pay it or not, you don't see the guy that's running the lines or working the machinery to make the electricity or any of that stuff.
Do you think, and I get this for everybody, just because it's something that super fascinates me. Obviously, if you're going by like common sense, like if everyone went out there to live that life, then that would turn into the city, and this would like be abandoned if you had that many people.
Absolutely.
So like, what's being able to connect out there in the calm and the quiet, you know, gets you back to your roots and everything. Is there a way that people can do that?
Oh,
You know, while they're still here? Do you think it's more difficult?
absolutely. Well, I think it's all mindset, man. You know what I mean? And I don't even think that, like, that. I don't even think, and I could be completely full of shit, so please, I don't know that this is true or not, but like even the idea of overpopulation, we aren't even trying right now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To live in a good way. I think that, like, if our intention was to recreate a relationship with the earth that was symbiotic and created welfare on all bases, I think that we could still sustain this many people in a good way. We'd have to be more conscious about it, which actually we probably already are, because I think the baseline for children back in the 50s and 60s was probably like 4 to 7 kids per family, and now you don't
See more than 3 or 2.
Yes, right? So I think that's already happening.
In some cases it is, but you still do see, and larger families a lot of times, or I feel like, can be very much more of a burden.
Right.
At least in today's society,
Oh,
because if
well,
you got 5, 6, 7 kids,
even
now,
financially, yeah.
exactly.
To go back to what you were saying about finding that connection in the city, I think that you absolutely could. You know, it's all about intention. You could have beautiful space here. You know, it's like I think that what has more to do with that is a restriction of needs being met. You know, because the truth of it is we have plenty of everything. We have so much. I mean, look at the waste. You know how much energy it takes to keep this as dysfunctional as it is?
Yeah.
Right.
It takes a lot because there's a ton of self-perpetuating sustainable systems that would actually make themselves grow if we invested in them that way, you know. But if it's like, if we continue to put our bottom line as profit instead of people and planet first, then we're going to continue to get what we get, you know. And it is that separation and that idea, like what you were talking about earlier, that we have to be in a certain way to achieve here, you know. But really, this is this culture is in its infancy, you know. And and if we look at benchmarks which have been declining culture in all the empires throughout time, we're experiencing them right now.
Yeah.
You know, like even soil degradation, that was a benchmark, you know, water quality, crazy political shit, you know, crazy sexual bar. How far can we push the craziness? All these things have already happened, and that's what we're experiencing now, you know. And so, like, when it was saying, hey, the water's rising, well, the water is rising, and I think that it could, like, when we were talking about, like, all the doomsday in the media and in the film industry right now, I don't think that it has to go like that, but I think that we would have to inject consciousness into the decisions that we're making for it to change. You know, if we continue to be reactive to letting culture lead this and us be reactive to it instead of investing in it,
Proactive, yeah.
instead of proactive, right?
Do you think it's more prudent to change it by separating from the culture and becoming autonomous, or by actively fighting back against it?
I don't know about either one of those. Like right now, what I'm like looking at is, okay, so one of the people that I go to for guidance, my uncle was like, don't even pay attention to it. Don't make it your world. You know what I mean? Like, what you put your focus on multiplies. You know, and I'm not saying that be an ostrich and stick your head in the sand, but instead of fighting against anything, I'm gonna plant seeds and plant roots in creating things that can flourish. You know, so why this is in decline, we're building a foundation. Like Barbara Marx Hubbard was like a futurist, forward-thinking pretty amazing person, and I even forget the name of the book right now, but the metaphor or the example that she used is that, like, when a caterpillar is becoming a butterfly, the caterpillar believes it's dying, but during this time all these transitional cells are being built within the structure to change. So like right now, whether we're talking about isolating or fighting against, I think we just need to build the foundation to get reconnected so that the next 7 generations have a chance
Right.
to experience this beautiful life, you know?
I think it's really easy to say the squeaky joint gets the oil too.
Yeah.
And when things are going wrong, it's easy to focus on those instead of building up the things that are going right, or embracing
Our whole, all of media is about that, right?
and our culture in general. I feel like I went to Arizona, to Phoenix specifically, and it had a really big effect on the way that I saw society, because we have a desert with no water and no rain and green grass and all of these, crops that are grown out there that are brought tons of water and irrigation, instead of just going to the places that have water to grow these things, or to have these things, if that's what you want.
Right.
So
fighting against it, that's like making that artificial environment. right?
Exactly.
Instead of watching and learning and being in a way that's going to benefit from that,
Exactly. And, like you said, embracing the earth and seeing what works well in different places instead of trying to artificialize that.
Right.
And in a lot of ways, I feel like that's what you guys are kind of doing out there. You and the other communities out there that are kind of stepping away from city life, or I don't know how to identify it, like normal culture, or what people view.
Dominant culture.
Dominant
at this
culture,
point.
sure. We'll call it.
The hustle and bustle.
Yeah. And stepping away from dominant culture, so that way we can see that, we can play to our strengths instead of our weaknesses.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's like, it started to hit on that. If you watch her, if you watch the interaction out there, you will learn the things that work, the things that you need to know.
Yeah. Like, you guys probably shouldn't grow, like something that grows in the South, like let's say peaches, I identify as like a Southern Georgia South thing, like or avocados. You guys probably shouldn't plant avocado trees in the middle of Pennsylvania. Embrace the things that work in our area.
Most of the time, it's weird because right now it's like we do basic math, right? And she's never operating like that, like 1 + 1 = 2.
Right.
I go to work, I do this, and I get my paycheck, I come home, I do this. She's always working where one cause has multiple effects, right? Like when it rains, it cleans the air, it waters the trees, it waters the animals, it filters down through the earth. Everything is interacting with each other to have multiple benefit.
Right.
We don't operate.
No, basic economy says that basic economics say that I should focus on one thing and monocrop and grow corn, or grow one aspect of like a single purpose thing, and focus on that and hone in on that, instead of seeing the other things that I can use this knowledge or these strengths to apply to.
Right.
Rather than, the monocrop idea.
Yep. It's weak.
It's
it
not
makes
good.
systems weak.
Right.
Instead of that diversity, it makes it weak.
With the no, never mind. I was just thinking, like, if anything, it's definitely weak, but it definitely serves the purpose of feeding the people.
Yeah, when you have 500 million people in an area.
Right.
You guys are opening up a big, well, because it's proven that when scientifically proven that when we add food to a population, the population grows.
Yeah.
So like we'd be taking it all the way back to the Cain and Abel stories of when we shifted from being hunters and gatherers and then started agriculture. But like this is like us adding consciousness to the situation, because there's middle ground that we could go if that was our intention.
Right.
You know?
And then currency gets involved too.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to grow all this for money for the things that I need, rather than, you know, not necessarily barter, but like barter as far as time goes. You know what I mean? Like, I offer you my time or my service or my labor, and instead of getting any sort of physical reward, we're rewarded with monetary gain or currency to exchange for other things.
I think that's a separation from, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's been going on for forever, and the upper echelons of a society on any level will absolutely abuse that power. But it seems like the more that we're pushing away from, like, spirituality as a culture, and people are just like, well, this is science. You know, they're not fucking scientists, but they're like, well, it's science, and like, I'm gonna die anyways, and nothing's happening after that, so fuck it, I'm gonna enjoy my life. I don't care what happens to anybody else. I think that's more like, kind of like what's going on with culture right now, is more people push away from the idea.
I hear what you're saying, and I think that there is something that to that, but I think personally, I think that it's more of fear of our own death. You know what I mean? Like, when we get close to our death, or to the fact that I'm gonna die, then there's freedom in that. There's freedom in that, and I think that people intrinsically want to live in a good way and be good people, for the most that I've seen. Like, they're operating from whatever programming they're coming from, but generally speaking, most people are good.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's that operating, it's moving from that fear base, and that one thing, that fear of that death, drives most of our decisions. You know, it drives all of capitalism.
Yeah.
If you really want to spin it out, it drives all the things that we do to get away from ourselves and to get away from this moment, which is the same breakdown that we were talking about, sitting out there on the stoop of that farmhouse until that Netflix kicked on. You know what I mean? All these little things that we do to get, if we really wanted to get in touch with it, of the fact that at some point I will be passing, and that's okay, and that's a natural process too, and that the rest of this space, this life, is a gift once I become fully aware of that.
Right.
You know?
And I think that, like, legacy building also gets tied in there from that fear of death. You know, I have to collect so much, you know, property or money or prestige or whatever, that way that my name lives on, or my offspring are able to live a better life than I do, which is all positive stuff.
Yeah.
But it can be, like we said, it can be focused on and monocropped, you know what I mean? Where that's all I think about is monetary gain and providing a legacy and generational wealth and all of these other things.
And that idea of separation too, you know what I mean? Like, I love my children, I want my children to be all right, but I really want your children to be all right too. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing that doesn't...
Until it's taken to the extreme.
Yeah.
Where I'm running a giant corporation and have 5-cent workers in China or India or whatever working
yeah,
for...
absolutely, right. And even the money story, there's nothing really wrong with the money per se. It's what you choose to do with it and what you'll do for it. You know, if you'll create harm to gain it.
I feel like people don't know what they're gonna do, like, for the most part, because there's more have-nots than there are have, at least when it comes to, like, money and power. And I think there's plenty of people who genuinely think that they would be good people if, like, they got like $100 million, but, like, you know, the statistics show that you're probably going to end up being pretty shitty. Like, not everybody, but like the vast majority of people who come into wealth and power get consumed by it. Like, it's a folly of human nature.
And they've been stepping on everybody's neck the whole way up there a lot of times.
Right. Oh, and it's not, I mean, that's usually the case, but those are the people you expect to, like, be shitty when they're stepping on necks to get up there. I'm talking about...
That's what blows my mind, is that, like, during the people that have amassed this much wealth, like, you'd think at some point within the evolution of your own consciousness that you would acknowledge and want to do really amazing things with that.
Yeah.
You know,
I think the perfect... Please don't shut us down, Elon Musk.
Really?
But I think I think he's like the perfect example. No, because when he started up like, PayPal, and then they got into Tesla and stuff, he had this image of like this like anti-billionaire, anti-powerful person. Like he was
the free flow of currency.
He was the free flow. He was the cool guy. He was progressive, whereas all these other guys were, or men and women were like, cutthroat stepping on necks. Elon Musk is the millennial or Gen Xer that's fucking cool and awesome. And now he's buying Twitter and having his people work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, sleeping on the floor, and taking stances where it's just almost like draconic, and people are like, what the fuck happened to this guy?
This might seem off subject, but like what we were talking about earlier, like I really like, Tony was telling me about some of the future guests that you guys have coming on, and I got to listen to a few that you've already did, and I really like that you're putting the focus on the opposites of those stories, the people that have come back to find what they want to connect with and what they want to be with,
right?
And like that spreads like wildfire, right? Mm-hmm. When we get lined up in a good way with something that makes our heart joyous, that grows and that spreads like wildfire. And that, and it goes to show, like, if my own personal belief is that we individually and collectively are so powerful that all this energy kept on us putting our focus on this is needed to keep us participating in the way that we're participating. Mm-hmm. Like the media, its intention is to create fear and calamity.
Right.
Because what
that
you
sells
focus,
papers.
It sells papers.
News is business.
And your
business.
focus is amazingly powerful. What you focus on magnifies and multiplies and manifests. So if they can grab a hold of that focus, then
that's what it becomes.
Absolutely. These numbers this was like a decade and a half ago, like in even advertisement, right? Like trillions of dollars, like say $3 trillion. And from the studying that you do or have done that they don't invest that $3 trillion if there's not a feedback.
Right.
If they are, they wouldn't be putting that money in. So like literally your focus manifests. If your focus can be grabbed, it manifests.
See, and like, I guess that's where the crossroads is with a lot of good people, because like currently what we're doing, and hopefully it continues that way, but it's a project of passion.
Exactly.
We enjoy it, but like there's so many people that get involved in projects of passion, and then it gets to a point where it can be monetized, and when the right group with the right amount of money is like, this will change your life, and we'll either completely take it over, or you're gonna work for us, but you're gonna make like, me and him are doing this for fun with someone, like God, I'm so behind on who owns shit. I was gonna say like the Hearst. He's been fucking dead for like William Randolph Hearst type shit. Like if someone was like, well, we'll give you $2 million each to dress up in suits and be total fucking the exact opposite of what you used to be.
That's where that principle base would save you.
Yeah, but I'm just being dead honest. That would be tough. That would be a tough decision to make.
You're still in this world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're still in this world where your interaction happens. It's gonna happen. Like I've been self-employed for probably probably at least 15 years now, and like I've worked for drug execs, and I could have made a very moral stance of no, I'm not taking this money, but like the way that I was able to be with it or interact with it was that this is the money that I'm taking from this system, I'm transmuting and using it in the best way possible that I can.
Yeah,
and it's just someone else would have got the money anyways if you turned it down.
Well, and it's not. But I didn't. I still built structures for them. I wasn't going and doing things that were morally objective in my action that I was doing, and really. us taking and doing good things with that flow, I think, is one of the best things that we
Right.
can do.
And
you know?
I had that like moral issue when I was trading stocks a lot in early 2020, and I was like, well, if all these hedge fund people are doing it, like this isn't really what I find to be right or a good way to, you know, generate some extra cash in my pocket.
Yeah.
But if all these other people are doing it, like, don't I deserve my chunk of the change that
Yeah.
I can use to do what I feel would be better, rather than letting all these hedge funds and other things like suck it all up, you know?
Yep.
And it's like,
Well, and it's like all that, all of that's touching anyways. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying rationalize yourself out of, I'm saying the energy that you bring to the world come in a good way. Do promote what you would, that's going to benefit the people.
yeah,
you know?
being complicit in those kind of things. Because I'm with you, man. Like, I go to work at a undisclosed place. When I go to work and I'm like, oh, these motherfuckers, you know, I make at this amount of money an hour, and all they care about is the shareholders, da da da. But I'll tell you what, when one of my stocks go up that I'm invested in, I'm like, fucking ka-ching, like,
Right.
you know, keep doing what you're doing. I'm making money, daddy, you know.
And I think recirculating that cash flow is so huge too.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe not taking it away from other people, but like spreading it around a little bit, because that money went into, you know, projects on my house that I paid local businesses and friends and whatnot
You
to
put
do
it back
things.
in a good way.
Right.
And, like that, the cha-ching part, it's like really transitory anyways. Do you know what I mean? There's a documentary, I think it's called Happiness, and it was the producer that made all the Jim Carrey films.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Have you seen it? Have either one of you seen
No,
it?
I have not.
It's pretty cool. He had like more money than he could possibly think of. Like he, not Evan Almighty, but what was
Liar,
Bruce Almighty.
liar.
Bruce Almighty? Three or four of Jim Carrey's biggest hits. This
Mask.
guy was like amazingly loaded, right? And he ended up just miserable, and so he ended up selling most of his shit. But during this time, he started studying like what creates happiness, and you know, like if you were cold and naked and hungry and in a ditch, and you got brought into the house and fed and given some clothing and said, "Hey, I'm happy you're alive," your happiness level would be off the chart. Now, everything past your basic needs being met lasts for very short periods of time once a certain amount, you know. So like there's a big difference between worrying about whether you can pay your electric bill and that not being a worry for you, right? So what I'm getting at is the second boat, the second house, these things that are status symbols that aren't necessarily needed, the happiness level is very transitory. You might be happy for a month, 2 months, maybe a year, but it's not real.
What was the quote I just heard? And it made me laugh because, you know, deep down there is that struggle between these things. But it's like the money doesn't buy happiness, but it sure does rent some time or something or it sure does rent it, you know, like.
Right, and I think that part of human nature is like tolerance building. You know what I mean? Like at first, maybe buying my first house or my first mansion or my first boat might make me pretty happy for a while.
Right.
And then my second boat has to be way bigger and way better and all of these other things to achieve that same level of euphoria. And not only does that like apply in like positive things, but in negative things as well.
Absolutely.
Like gambling, we're on a poker table. Like the first time I lost $100, it was devastating to me. And now, in order to get that upset, I might have to lose $300 or $400. You know.
Yep.
Goes along with drugs or drinking or
All
anything.
that.
You know, I need more to feel the same euphoria than I did when I first started. You know, or that same level of pain when something bad happens.
Well, I mean, we got these devices in our hands nowadays that just like pump that up to the fucking
To the max,
brim,
right?
the max,
Yeah.
it's like kind of how we started this conversation. Like, that's just how people are basically being raised from childhood nowadays, is to just feed into that instant gratification and that like almost addictive nature, culture.
Oh yeah.
And I always called them the feral children that live out your way. They're some of the most interesting and thoughtful little tiny humans that I've met in all of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of kids I'm not able to have like a
Full-blown conversation with. Yeah.
Exactly. A succinct, thoughtful conversation that stays like on one topic and develops like a conversation should, compared to a lot of other kids that I see in a more traditional or the dominant culture's way of living, which is so interesting. It's got that slowdown. They're able to think through something and see the conclusion and let it develop naturally to it before maybe short-circuiting that conclusion and going somewhere else.
There you go. And I think that's probably, if there is a dangerous part about the technology, it is that like really short instant feedback, because like the information itself is awesome.
Oh yeah.
Like being able to look up anything right now, having access to that information, that's amazing. It's just getting used to that feedback cycle, and then the addictive nature of it.
See, I think it is awesome. I think it also kind of takes away from like our cultural, or maybe our ties to our past. Kind of how like the way we used to collect information before was just based off of what other people say. And I think that kind of, even though it's definitely not always accurate and it might be harmful at times, I think that was like a cool, mysterious way to live, where you just had to take someone's word for it. you had to like.
But anecdotal evidence is still incredibly valid.
But I feel like
personal story.
I feel like it's slipping though. I feel like the anecdotal evidence is slipping, because if I was sitting here, if this was like 20 years ago and we were talking about a subject that not all of us knew a whole lot about, I could be like, grapes grow at, like in the temperature range from this to this. That's what my Aunt Joe told me. Yeah. And you'd be like, oh, okay, well, that's what she said. Cool. But nowadays it'd be like, well, let me fucking see about your Aunt Joe,
The part that gets messed up at is the relaying of that information. I think the secondhand nature of it. Direct personal anecdotal evidence is incredibly valid and real, and I can't take away from anybody's story. But when we start playing the telephone game and passing that around is where things start to get misconstrued a lot. And especially like even with modern information, any story or news thing or whatever that you find on social media has probably passed through 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different hands before it finally got to you, and you're getting the completely different version of that compared to the first-hand evidence of reading an article from a scientist or me just talking to you and sharing about our personal experiences.
But people see that stuff online, especially if it's written in an article form, and especially if it's older people, and they just automatically assume it and accept it to be truth.
Yeah.
They don't discern the fact that it's...
The funny thing is that like it, and what you guys are talking about too, I think, is like going from like knowledge to wisdom. Like when you have the actual experience of it, you can gain something from it, and you have something to build on from too. Like, and I'll say this for my 16-year-old son right now. It doesn't matter how many times or how much energy I put into his awareness growing. It's going to grow when it's time for it to grow, and when he wants it to grow, and when he participated, and when he has that experience to have a building block to build from. You know what I mean? So like that information, it can be spoken all that it's want, but like having the actual experience of something. And so like part of it too is like, and even that journey out there was like removing was the willingness for not everything to be perfect, and trusting, that it was going to be okay. Not perfect, but okay.
Right.
And then we go from there.
And we make it through it, we survive and we keep going.
Yeah, right.
I wonder if it's like the separation, how like, I think that the most beneficial and most harmful thing that has been given to us through technology, it might not be, but to me it is how people just cannot tell directions anymore.
Oh yeah.
And people are even if I'm like, I do it now, like even if I'm going halfway across town, if it's a street that I'm like not 100, like some side street on the west side, because I live on the east side that I'm not usually around, that shit's going in Google immediately.
Oh, right.
Like I'm like following 99% of the route that I know, and then just listening to this phone, you know. And
what about telephone numbers, man? I literally know no one's telephone
Not
number.
anymore,
Like
dude. I can remember a few like elementary school friends, and that's about it.
Right.
My mom.
I don't even have them.
it's funny when you ask someone their phone number now, and they have to like, if it's a
let
new
me
phone, they have to
check.
fumble through their phone.
Yeah.
They're like, I have no idea what my phone number is, you know. But I think that's like it's like a great metaphor for where we're at right now, just as people in general. Like people for the most part feel like they're on a grid and just being directed to exact points, and there's no mystery to it. There's no learning how to get from point A to point B. It's just getting on the track and being pushed along.
Right.
You know, and I think that's
on
really
so many levels.
That's really how we are as a culture right now.
Yeah, right.
And I think it's great.
Well, right, and we're being spoon-fed the idea of what success is, but not like any actual proof that that's even what you want, or that that's what brings happiness. Like, it can tell me that, you know, like, this is what you want, this is what you want. I'm watching, I don't have to use him as an example. I was going to go back to my son, but I'm watching so many kids nowadays think that this is what they want. If I emulate this, this will create success, this will create happiness, this is it, right? But I'm telling you, if we don't do that internal work, none of that's going to add up to a bunch of shit, or it won't mean a thing. Right. You know, it'll be
And
pearls before swine, right? You have all this abundance, but no, you'd have people doing what they're doing right now, and we're talking about the people that have achieved this great, tremendous amount of abundance, and like doing ridiculously wasteful shit with it instead of imagining a greater idea of where their reach could do.
It's like we're in an efficiency culture as compared to a fulfillment one.
Right.
What do you mean by efficiency? Or
Efficiency meaning like doing whatever is necessary with the least amount of steps, and to get what you want.
Or to get, I feel like it's get what you're told you want.
Get what
to.
you're told you want, or like efficient in the sense that you're not considering the negative points that might come from the wake you leave behind, as long as
Yeah.
it's
You can set it on the table.
as long as it's the quickest way to get, or the, you know, for that singular task.
it all goes back to your intention, right? Because
Yeah.
like I'm a mason, I lay brick, I lay block, and so if I can take a step out of that, it's awesome, and I'm really cool with that, right? But with that intention, but if the intention is only to make profit, if the end goal is always profit and not fulfillment,
Right.
then
And I feel like you kind of may, if you're not super well versed in where you're going or what you're doing, that little bit of efficiency may be not have structural integrity.
yeah, right. They're not knowing where you want to go, man, and that's okay. Now you're cracking open like huge topics, because we need a new creation story, right?
Yeah.
We don't. What you're saying, people being pushed on a grid, going places that they don't even know what they're doing, why they're doing it, going out to make this money, to come back to houses that they don't have time to even spend in, because they have to go out and get, you know.
And continue
So like
working,
when we were even back probably 2, 3, 4 generations back, people dipped out to make profit, to come invest in their homestead and take care of their people. Now we do the opposite. We go out there, or maybe so much profit's needed that we go out there, give all our time out there, and don't even have time to have a life.
Right.
You know?
And you see that with a lot of people.
But-
I see that a lot of people really identify work as like their sole. You know, that's like their thing. You know, their passion. That's what they want to be doing. They want to work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, every day, all day long. You know, that's what they live and die for. And how do you? I feel like I learned this a long time ago. A mentor to me told me, you know, your work is what you do to enjoy the rest of your life. You know, would you be doing what you're doing if there wasn't a paycheck at the end of it?
It reminds me of the.
Right.
It reminds me of the old, I'm going to butcher it. I was going to pull up my phone because I hate getting quotes wrong. But it reminds me of the old, like, John Lennon quote where he was like, I was in school and they gave an assignment and they said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, I want to be happy. And the teacher said, you didn't understand the assignment. And he was like, you don't understand life.
Yeah.
You know, like, because you're right. It's such like a, what do you want to be? Like, that, you know, you got to want to be some kind of occupation to feed back in and, you know, work for the society.
And and so like going back to you even using the word efficiency, I get what you mean, or just more of that absorbed, because like with that as the goal, right, with this outcome as the goal, again, it goes back to what we focus on, right? What our goal is, what we want to happen, because like prior to that, the goal was the health of our family, the health of our community, and it was the breaking away of that got us to this. You know, like the myth of culture. Like they told us that this would solve all these things, really, but prior to this, we probably only worked like 4 to 6 hours a day. It was done with people that we loved. It was directly benefiting where we lived. It was done with elders being mixed with children, so children had a foundation and a guidepost to become good people instead of like how it is right now. You know, all these things also, and there we go. So back to multiple needs were being met by one action instead of one action failing again and again. You know,
There's a lot of stuff going on here today.
yeah.
It's been. I feel like we could continue on this conversation for another hour or two if we wanted to.
I feel like this is the exact definition of everything at once.
Everything at once.
I don't want to say, because we've talked a lot about like being at false pinnacles right now, and I think we're at a false pinnacle because I think we can go higher, but god damn it, if this doesn't feel like the peak of doing everything at once right now.
Just incremental.
And we've said that a lot too. You know, and things keep progressing and getting better for us, and we keep honing our skills and hopefully providing a better content for you guys. And we hope that you've really enjoyed this one. Josh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was awesome, dude. Thank you. And everybody out there listening, thank you so much for continuing to listen. We love you guys, and it really makes it easy for us to keep doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and remember to do your best. Stay in school.
That's right. Or don't stay in school.
Or don't stay in school.
Yeah, be a feral child and live in the woods. If that's what you're called to do. Do what you want to do. That's what's really important.
Don't just listen to the man blindly.
Don't listen to us either.
Don't listen to us
Except actually listen to our podcast. But,
yeah.
you know, you guys know what I mean. You've been here long enough. Thank you guys. Peace.
Thank you.